Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Taking Liberties in Season 3. My name is Lee. This week we're going to have an extra long episode to cover for the fact that we didn't have an episode last week, because we actually found there's a fair bit to talk about. And to help you with that, I've got Vickers in Canberra.
Hello.
Got Tim in Victoria.
Hey.
And we've got Dom from I can't remember where, so tell us where you're from,
Brisbane.
Dom. Brisbane? There you go. I actually meant to ask before we started.
Even I know that.
Awesome.
Okay, this week we got 4 topics. Oh, sorry. Go.
By the way, can I just propose next time you forget,
Yeah.
just throw a dart at a map and wherever it lands, that's where he's from.
Yeah, sure.
We've actually got
Let's
no
make
one
something
from
up.
Sydney this week, so that's good from
Oh, that's because Sydney's been
Victoria.
flooded.
Yes.
No, it's flooded. It's gone.
City's become
it's been
Atlantis.
removed. Yeah.
That'll be next week's topic.
Maybe more the Submariner is coming on from for Taking Liberties next week. This week we got 4 topics. We're talking about this Country Fire Authority and unionism in Victoria. We've got the Brexit vote, which is coming up on Tuesday. We're going to talk about Johnson and Weld, the Libertarian nominations for president in America. And we're going to talk about Facebook and censorship, depending how you think about it. But let's talk first about the Country Fire Authority. So essentially right now in Victoria there is a bit of a political shit fight going on where the United Firefighters Union, who campaigned for the Daniel Andrews Labor government and donated a fair amount of money, is basically getting their payola at the moment. They essentially, the Andrews government is considering a plan which would effectively unionise a volunteer country firefighter association. So they put in all these crazy rules, which would just make it more expensive to run all these.
It's basically the volunteers can't do anything unless there's a professional firefighter there.
Yeah.
Now, let me give my perspective as a Territorian. I can't stand the Mexicans. And quite frankly, the sooner they all burn, the better. So, go Union. I can't think of anything that will, make rural Victoria more susceptible as a fire risk than this policy.
Yeah.
And because of that, it has my wholehearted support. And like
You
I said
obviously
before,
don't.
go Union.
You obviously don't live in a high fire danger area. Last 2 summers where I am, there's been nearly bushfires. So
I
yeah,
feel
that's
like the
actually
sarcasm did not come through enough there, but
that's very offensive.
I think I think it'll probably encourage people to invest in their own fire safety sort of stuff, and probably end up, when something really bad happens, be a tool that we can use to push in voluntary private firefighting organizations like have been so successful in the US.
Yeah, and I really like the CFA because it basically is a libertarian organisation. It's, communities coming together to provide a community service free of charge. This is why I always laugh. I think they're from America. People post the videos, Libertarian Fire Department, and I always comment saying, well, we have the Libertarian Fire Department in Australia. It's the CFA.
Yep.
yeah,
And so
it's
this
probably,
is a real
and you
shame
probably find
what is
similar,
happening.
similar things around the country. I mean, essentially, these communities need to look after themselves because they're hundreds of kilometres away from any potential help. And yeah, I mean, Western Australia is very similar. I mean, the whole of Australia is the same, more or less.
And it's a perfect example that the government can't do everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the reality is, this takeover. Now, it's not necessarily going to leave places without fire services, right?
Yep.
It's just going to make the delivery of those fire services exceedingly expensive.
And inefficient.
Well...
And probably slow down response times.
Yeah,
that's
when
what-
union rules have to be complied with to actually fight a fire, that's downright dangerous.
Yeah,
Why
I
does
was...
it have union rules?
Well, so, I mean, the main issue here is the stuff that they're imposing on the government as actual restrictions for the fire services, right? It's not as if the government can't comply with these conditions. It just makes it very expensive for the government to do so. And look, if Victoria wants to do that and burden the Victorian taxpayer, hey, that's what federalism's all about. But from a
Well, you
public,
don't live there, so easy for you to say.
I've clearly mentioned several times, I don't care what happens to Mexico. Uh, anyway, coming back to the point, look, from a public policy perspective, this is just a bad idea on the grounds that it is basically destroying something that is already existing there. And, typically the Labour argument is, hey, the government should provide something when the private sector cannot. But here is an example where the private sector is clearly providing something that is functioning, and they're still wanting to step in and destroy it, and it quite frankly makes no sense.
It's basically what the Andrews government has done since it got onto office is they had, I think it was the firefighters and the AMBOs and I think it was the nurses all handing out for them. And so basically the first term is basically repaying all of their union friends who helped get them into power. And this is just another one of their deals to say, okay, you helped us get elected. Here's the deal we're going to put through.
Yeah.
And so, they were going... Today was supposed to be decision day, but they're now going to have, I think, a review of the Fair Work Commission EBA. So we still don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I would say that they're having second thoughts now. So, and there was the big rally on the weekend where Turnbull got cheered at it. I couldn't believe it. So the community.
I was going to say it's absolutely right that Turnbull has picked this issue to get involved. Not just because, from a Liberal Party's perspective, it chimes their base, but it's actually something where the community swell is against it.
And also, theoretically, this is supposed to be an election over the role of the unions. Like, the double dissolution trigger was about,
and given that Australians, they bizarrely have a really high opinion of unions, like this is an actual case where the public has realised, no, unions are actually going to destroy this industry here.
Yeah. I mean,
so
when you when people think of political corruption, they think of, politicians being given brown paper bags full of money for votes, but really this is what corruption in politics looks like. The unions did this thing to help a government get elected, and now they're going to do this thing for the unions. Like, that's I mean, which isn't something we can necessarily legislate against, but just when people think about the goodness of politicians and what it takes for them to do what they need to do, this is the kind of stuff they need to keep in mind. And I think most people don't necessarily make that connection. Like, they really should, because anytime the government has the power to hand out favours, this is the kind of stuff they're going to do.
But let's not ignore there is, they are always going to sell it on the argument that it is for, rural firefighter safety, that these rural firefighters are not qualified for the sort of blazes that they're going to be handling, despite having, veterancy throughout some of the worst bushfires on the history of the earth.
Yeah.
And firefighters do die on the job, but that's a risk that they're willing to take. But you can
is there actually? I don't think there's actually any proof that the volunteers don't do a good job. I haven't heard that argument put forward.
No, I don't think so. But if someone's doing it voluntarily, they can always have the argument, oh, well, these guys are professionals, they're paid for it, and they need to be there to supervise, blah, 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 blah. And
I mean, essentially...
And it's always going to win some votes over. It's always going to win some segment of the population over, even though it'll...
can I just say, just make a comment? Just, that's the same sort of thing you hear with all of these union agreements with governments. Like, if you hear about, when teachers strike for pay, it's always under the talk of conditions and, the benefit. It's to benefit the children, and the nurses, the same. Like, they're striking because they want better pay conditions to help their patients. This is exactly the same sort of thing. Like, they essentially, the public good, whatever that is used as a fig leaf to cover up for the fact that this is just blatant, corruption. This is, this is, governments doing deals for their mates. Sorry, because you...
Yeah. I find that argument particularly intriguing because we never. So we have a volunteer military force. We call them the Army Reserves, or the Air Force
They're
Reserves,
paid.
or the Navy Reserves. We pay them a stipend, yes, for the 2 weeks. Wait, are you saying the CFAs aren't paid stipends for their training?
Well, for their training, but not like there's not the tax-free sort of thing that the Army Reserve has.
The Army Reserve only has stipends for when they're actually, called out to their 2 weeks compulsory per year. They're not paid otherwise.
Huh?
So,
I thought it was
yeah.
every second weekend. Oh.
Yeah, so it's only whenever they're on exercise, dude. So it's effectively the same thing.
Yeah.
We don't sit there and go like, oh, hey, we should get rid of the Army Reserves and just have only the Army. So it's kind of confusing me that argument would be used at all on the CFA.
They're not trying to get rid of Country Fire Authority. They're just trying to set the pecking order, which is the Metropolitan Firefighters are king of the kiddies, and the CFA got to suck it up. So it's not they're abolishing the CFA. It's just that they have to play second fiddle to what Metropolitan Union firefighters want.
Which undermines volunteer morale significantly.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, no, I understand the
Kind of
argument.
like saying the SES here in Queensland couldn't save people from, floodwaters or something like that unless there were ambos or police nearby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's
And
craziness.
And I also might add, where I am at the moment, Hastings, sort of the CFA it's one of the sort of pillars of the community, and so if you basically tear that up, that really breaks sort of part of the community spirit, which is another thing. It's also destroying localism as well, and leading to more centralized government.
I mean,
Yeah,
so an interesting sort of sort of a rebellion against this sort of thing. So I read an article quite recently. I mean, this is obviously not about firefighting, but lots of cities in America have started making it illegal to feed the homeless, like for churches to feed the homeless. And there was I think there was a group in Texas who literally brought armed guards to tell the cops to get fucked, basically. Basically they started handing all this free food, they were looking after the homeless, and they had their literally armed volunteers with them to essentially deter the police trying to stop them.
Yeah,
obviously
I've heard stories.
armed fireys
there are
might be a bit of thing, but it's just that just made came to mind as with what you're saying about localism. This really is firefighters, country firefighters, and it's the same with Busselton, where I'm sort of originally from. Well, not originally from, where I've been living, where there's a number of volunteer brigades, and everybody looks after everybody, and everybody goes to each other's fires, and it's a real community thing.
Yeah,
and it's just and the government is destroying that, undermining that thing.
Yeah. So sorry, just on the same sort of anecdotal information, that there were localities in the northwest of America that were making it illegal to pay for other people's parking fees, because there were brigades of people basically running around paying
the Robin Hooding.
Yeah, the Free State guys in New Hampshire.
Yep, exactly.
That's always fun.
So I mean, it's not uncommon. It is really not uncommon for states to try and clamp down on civil society behavior.
Yeah. It's all under the guise of the for the public good. So I guess we're probably talking about this. Oh, sorry, you would final word, Tim, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. And don't forget, before the government had all these services, there were heaps of these volunteer organisations. So we existed before government services.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's talk about Brexit. Sorry, did you want to make one last point?
Oh no, I was going to say on that whole thing of centralized government using fear campaigns for public safety to, convince the public into more centralization. Brexit fits perfectly into these fear campaigns.
Oh, you wanted to do a good segue.
Yeah.
So
leave the segues to us, man.
no, that was a good segue, man. All right.
Yeah.
So for those who are not aware what Brexit is, essentially, this coming Tuesday, England's voting to having a referendum on whether to. Britain's having a referendum on whether to stay within the European Union. I've heard differing comments on the polls and the state of where it's going to go, whether they're going to stay or go. But let's talk about the European Union and Britain.
So I'm on the fence about this because like, part of me likes the idea that Britain should be more open to trade, and if they exited, I don't think that would necessarily happen. I think the nationalists would get one hell of a kick and would probably see the BNP, UKIP, and basically.
I don't think it's to do with free trade as it is to do with free immigration.
It's got to do with their argument is entirely about free immigration, but I'm pretty sure that the unholy trinity of the what you would effectively call the alternative right, and the very socialist left, who really just like this idea of this national bubble that they can control. I think.
Well, they want to control who comes into the country, which I see nothing wrong with that.
Not just that, dude. Nigel Farage is like an outlier in his own party. A lot of them think that China is an unfair trading partner and all this other bullshit. They will they are pushing around the edges for more increases in tariffs and protection.
But you do know that the EU is a massive.
Yeah. It's a massive regulatory state. I'm not denying that. Yeah. But it's a massive regulatory state to outside of EU, not inside. Right now, the British government has very loose borders and loose trade with everyone inside Europe. The thing is, I can't stand the EU, but I do like the fact that they've managed to get them to open up their borders, at least internally. And I would like that to continue on an outward pattern. And I don't think UKIP, BNP, and the socialist, Labour essentially, will deliver that. Sorry, not Labour. It would be the Scottish National Party, wouldn't it? They're the other main player in it. Yeah, but I don't think those three. I don't think those three would deliver more libertarian or more free markets.
I disagree. I would say that, well, for one, the BNP, they're polling so low with how this whole thing works. They're much more likely to get a seat with the European elections. They're much more likely to have some influence there than with the Westminster system.
That's comforting.
Yeah. Same with UKIP. Look, they got one seat last time.
Well, but the European election, that's proportional representation, while general election is first past the post. So, it's very different.
I mean, Dan Hannan, so to the whole thing of trade, and in turn, European free trade, Dan Hannan would point to countries that are outside the EU but still in Europe. So I think, Sweden and Norway and some of those countries, I think it's Norway he brings up, and then I think Switzerland as well.
Switzerland.
Yeah, it's another one where they said they basically have free trade with the European Union, but they're not members of the EU. So his argument would be that essentially that Britain would sort of remain. I mean, his point is basically it's ridiculous to say that we're going to leave Europe. We can't leave Europe. We're right here. We always have relations with them.
That's just the scare tactics of the opponents of Brexit. They're saying, this will be the end of European integration.
No, so
you
to
can
clarify,
still have treaties. You can still do that with treaties.
To clarify my comment, I wasn't saying that they'd end all trade with Europe. I was saying that they would start reversing that progression.
Yeah. Well,
and based on what the nationalists are saying, I think that's what they're pushing for, at least at their local level.
But I think if you did have the Brexit, you'd have to have whatever government got in afterwards. After the next general election, what the Conservatives would do in the meantime would be appease the free trade liberals, the people who want to stay in the EU, with these trade treaties, with these free trade agreements, with these immigration agreements with, say, France and Germany, and keep what the benefits of the EU were, while avoiding punishing any of the trading partners. So you keep a friendly relationship while amicably breaking up.
Yeah,
it's like an breakup.
I would totally agree with that. That would be my ideal policy.
And seeing as the Conservatives are the ones that are currently in power and not the SNP Labour Alliance, I don't think it's going to be a spiteful thing. I don't think it's going to be like that. Cameron loves the EU. He wants to
remain.
He wants to remain. So he's going to make the breakup as amicable as possible and leave them.
That's if his prime ministership survives Brexit yes vote.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like, I guess one of the issues, though, with this whole nationalism thing is that always exists. That exists in every single country. Because
Yes, it does.
there's idiotic
Yes,
people
it does.
everywhere. And in the European Union, it just pushes it to a supranational level where it's pretty much completely. There's no accountability whatsoever really for any of these people. And if you look at, I read an article just this week talking about how essentially French farmers have got European EU trade policy by the balls, and it has a massive impact in Africa. And German farmers, Africa grows like a massive amount of coffee beans, but it has to go to Germany to be processed because there's like a 30% tariff on processed coffee beans going into the EU. So
and sugars.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of stuff where
is good on this.
Yeah, look, the EU is actually the European Union is a very good case study in how not to do federalism.
It's not federalistic at all. It's
just centralized power full stop. Or trying to create some sort of global government.
Actually, I'm not sure why you would say it's not an example in federalism. I mean, that you've still got each nation state underneath it.
You still have each nation state underneath it, but there's no limit as to what the central government in Brussels can impose on the member states. Like you can have literal sidewalk laws overruled in a certain community because of what something said in Brussels by unelected people, not even in the European Parliament, but actually just
the European Commission, which is like a separate organization.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've gotten, the IPA's Hey newsletter over the years, about every week there's a new ridiculous EU regulation that they put in there. So, they come up with, all these, regulations nearly.
Like, you can't
nearly
say water
every
rehydrates
day,
people. That was my favourite.
Yeah.
Was that, you can't claim that water will rehydrate you. Which is just, yeah. But
my favorite was the guidelines on inflating balloons.
So good.
Yeah. So, no, but I mean, like when we talk, I'll take your point that it's not quite federalistic in the sense that there's no limitation on the central power. But as an example, like they do have subsidiarity, and that's one of the hallmarks of federalism. And I'm sitting there going, like, I don't understand how you could say that it's not federalism. We could argue that it's a very poor form of federalism, but I don't see how it isn't.
Let's see if you think federalism's good.
I do believe federalism is good.
But it doesn't matter if you think federalism is good or bad. It is an example of federalism. I take that back. Yeah, it's a very poor one. And regardless if you think federalism is good or bad, this is not a good implementation of it. Just like you can say, Soviet communism was a poor implementation of communism, even if you're a communist or like us.
Whoa, saying there's opening the door to potential that there's a good form of communism? You can't be on the show anymore, John Vasta. You are now banned. That sort of communist talk cannot. There will be.
There are degrees.
Tolerated.
Some are better than others.
Is there a world, where it is consistent with libertarianism to support the EU, or some version of it, or some version of that kind of international,
well-implemented federalism. A well-implemented federalism.
Well, what would that be? What would that be?
Something resembling close to the United States, I'd imagine.
No, I don't think you can do it at that level. I don't think you can do it at that level with that many people, with that many dollars. I think it has to stop at probably just about what our current nations are now. Otherwise, it's just
I'm
not
for
enough representation.
I really liked what Mark Hornshaw said at the Friedman Conference, that I'd like closer to 7 billion countries. So I want to see nation states as small as possible, and so the EU, even the United States, is too big. And so I think that the smaller a state is, the closer it is to people on the ground. I think that's better.
Sure. We should all run our tin pot dictatorships. Okay.
I take that back. I take that back. What it could do is if it completely limited itself to like national defense and immigration agreements, then I'd accept something like an EU where you can use that big body to coordinate, say, bulk purchases of F-35s, planning military defenses.
But Singapore does fine, and it's tiny.
It does fine, but
there's
it would do better.
micronations which exist quite safely.
Yeah, I mean, you've got
It
Liberland
could
popping up
basically
as
just
well.
be a treaty organization like
Yeah,
NATO.
a muddy swamp in the middle of a river between
That-
Serbia
that's
and
not a
Croatia. Yes,
country, though.
I am amazed how it hasn't been invented already. I mean, there's just so many opportunities to do something with that sort of land. First, we need some people there. That would be a good way to stop the invasion. I mean, I think multilateral trade agreements and immigration agreements. Essentially, you can have a lot of those similar sort of policies.
Yeah.
Like maybe not everybody who's currently in the EU, but you think about France, Germany, England, Spain. Like all these countries have pretty close ties anyway. Like you can have open borders basically between them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would more be in favour of unilateral free trade agreements. Like, nobody has to sign for you to reduce your tariff barriers.
True.
And if the rest of the world, we can drop our tariff barriers tomorrow.
Yeah.
We can literally say there are no more tariffs tomorrow.
Yep.
And,
Well,
you know
except for
what?
the legislation that mandates them. But yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, no, we
just go
what
to
I'm saying
You
is,
can abolish those
what I'm saying,
legislations. That's true.
yeah, Parliament just goes, all this legislation about, tariffs, we're scrapping them. So, yes, what I'm saying is, the country can actually go, unilaterally declare itself a free trade zone. And, to all the people that talk about level playing fields and all that bullshit, I don't care if the rest of the world wants to, subsidise a higher standard of living in Australia. In fact, I welcome them.
Yeah. It means more free, more cheap stuff for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
It's the
higher
best-
standard of living. Higher standard of living. That's how
living.
we are subsidised by the rest of the world to have a higher standard of living. And I would love for the world to do more of the work for us to have a higher standard of living. And I'm saying that as an Australian.
Yeah, I love that we get subsidized flights from foreign-owned airlines.
Yeah. And we should also point out on the defense thing, the military thing, we already have a version of that. It's called NATO, and it's been around for a while.
ANZUS.
No, like in terms of European policy.
Yeah, in
like
terms of
in terms of Europe, like they already have a defense thing. It's called NATO. It may not be working well. Like it may involve a lot of the US subsidizing European layabouts, but at least it's there. And really, if you think about it, like the prospect of Germany invading Europe is probably that's probably a period of time that's well and truly gone. Like really,
I don't know, dude. I don't exactly trust Angela Merkel.
yeah, Angela Merkel. She's a spicy one.
Margaret Thatcher still feared German invasions.
Well, she did live through.
And she was Prime
World War
Minister.
II.
Yeah.
She didn't want Germany to she didn't want England to join the EU at the time because of Germany.
Well, and actually, like from what I understand, there were genuine concerns about German reunification for that exact reason. Like they, and that's not without merit. Like let's be real. Like Germany was a superpower in Europe for a very long time, and they were very militaristic. Their track record was not good.
They started 2 world wars.
Yeah, and
Not
and,
one,
Well,
two.
no,
and the Prussians
one
were.
World War.
One.
Yeah.
The first one was.
Well,
Treaty of
anyway,
Versailles was
nevertheless, they.
Okay, fine. The first one was started by us, technically. Okay,
And
gotcha.
even before that, like even before the World War One, like there was still, German military might was still a thing. So
Germany used to be a whole lot bigger.
yeah. So it's not inconceivable to say, well, but I think with now we've had reunification for 30 years or 20 years or whatever it is. I think we can safely
to build
say
our subs. That's my question.
Well, that's it. Well, sure, why not? They build our cars.
There's an election in Germany next year. The Alternative for Germany party could do quite well.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Judging by how close
all through
the
Europe,
Austrian
so
ones were, I think, Merkel's going to be well and truly gone.
Yeah. Letting all those Muslims in did not help her.
Nope.
No.
She didn't sell it well. She didn't manage it well. It just...
Anyway.
By the way, I'm not saying anything bad about the Muslim people that came there. I'm just saying it didn't help her. There's clearly a lot of local discontent for them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's probably not an unreasonable observation.
Yeah, but there are lefties that listen to this and want to scream racist, which you can't, by the way, because I'm brown. Moving forward.
Well, that's only if
Well,
they watch the
Islam's not a
video.
race.
Yeah, that's yes. If you're listening to the podcast, you should know that Vickers is brown. Okay, let's talk about. He's a man though, and as far as he's a cis man, so that kind of undermines the whole brown thing. Let's talk about Johnson and Weld. So, the Libertarian Party is the only real serious third party in America. They actually have ballot access in all 50 states.
Fuck that! They're the only second party in America, with the Democrats being the ones in the lead right now. I'm sorry, Trump is not a serious candidate. I know I supported him, but that's because I want to watch the Republicans burn. And now that they've done that,
technically there are two separate entities called the Democrats and the Republicans. So theoretically, they are two separate parties, even if they are kind of the same. Anyway, the Libertarian Party is they had their nomination convention last weekend. And they nominated for a second time Johnson. What's his first name?
Yeah, Gary Johnson.
Gary Johnson. Right, Johnson.
And they had as controversially as his vice presidential candidate William Weld, who was a governor. So Gary Johnson was a two-term Mexico governor of New Mexico, and William Weld was a two-term governor of Massachusetts back in the 80s and 90s, I think. So
they both have more executive experience than both Trump and Clinton put together.
Exactly. It's also, the whole nomination process was quite interesting. So we also had Austin Peterson, who's kind of a YouTuber. He's kind of like sort of does a bit of media. He's quite young. He's younger than me. He's like 31, and I'm like, holy crap, he's running for president.
Well.
How can you run for president at 31?
No, he's 35.
35, okay.
He's got to be 35.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, he's 35.
He's actually 12.
Yeah, he looks about 12. Then he also had the very colourful John McAfee, which is as a McAfee antivirus software,
Which he disendorses.
Yeah, which he disendorses. He's also wanted for a murder charge in Colombia or something.
Belize.
Yeah. So he's a very colourful
set
candidate.
up.
And then you also had, at the actual convention, you had a bunch of others who were just kind of weird and random.
Actually, before we start talking about Johnson and Weld as candidate, as a ticket, I want to talk about that guy that went up and stripped on stage.
The national chairman or something.
Yeah, I don't know what his name is. I have no idea what his role was. It's just everything I know
He was
about
going for chairman of not sure national chairman, but chair of some libertarian.
Whatever, give it to him. Give it to the man. Sorry, I'm just the guy gets on stage butt naked.
He wasn't actually naked. He still had his underwear on.
Oh,
James Weeks
Had a
is
white
his name.
nationalist tattoo on his arm.
Yeah, he had the Iron Cross.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Everybody's had the Iron Cross tattooed on them at some stage.
Where's yours?
Oh, wouldn't you like to know?
Okay, so yeah, it's a very interesting convention. We also had a rap. There was a guy one of the guys trying to nominate for president. He did this kind of interesting rap as his summary thing. It was a very compared to how dull and stale the major parties are in America. The Libertarian Party was genuinely kooky. So anyway, let's talk about.
But it's fun cookie, not bad cookie.
Yeah, not bad cookie. It's not.
We've
fascist
got the
kooky,
Republican
Burn
convention
Supreme
to look
style.
forward to.
So the eventual nominees were Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. What are your thoughts on them? Because let's be real, in terms of hardcore libertarianism, neither could be really considered a hardcore libertarian. Gary Johnson.
They want to play it safe. They want to sort of, say the nice things about libertarianism, drugs, same-sex marriage, civil liberties, but they don't sort of want to talk about the more difficult ones, such as freedom of association and that sort of thing.
Selling heroin to children. Apparently, that was a question at the convention.
That was Austin Peterson's question, but here's my thing. I think they need to defend. I've met Gary Johnson 3 times. So I've met Gary Johnson 3 times. Once at ISFLC last year, once at CPAC last year, and once at ISFLC this year. He is a very, very nice person. bit sweet. Fuck, he is boring. And
Yeah.
and if there is one thing I would like the Libertarian Party to do, is spend a whole bunch of money in teaching him how to talk in an interesting way to people. I am sure he was a very exciting person to New Mexicans. Who the greatest thing that ever happened there was Breaking Bad. But, this is the national stage, it's the big leagues. I feel like he needs something to make him more exciting to people.
Yeah, but he blew a kiss this week. I mean, he tried to mix it up a bit.
I know he comes off as
Sure.
effeminate compared to the other candidates, even Hillary.
I don't have
mean-
a problem with that. I have zero problems with an effeminate...
I don't.
Isn't
I don't,
everybody
but
more
the
effeminate than
American
Hillary
voter-
Clinton? Like, it's not exactly
To
a
be
difficult
fair,
thing
I'm
to
not-
be.
To be fair, I'm not convinced that she's actually human yet.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well-
I mean...
Clearly a reptilian.
Yeah, no.
Well, I was going for an artificial superintelligence that's found a way to mask itself as in some sort of.
But
Except she'd
Well,
have to be
that's
intelligent
Messed
for
up
that.
so badly with her email server.
Yeah, that's it.
But of course, the most important thing
How
is
do you
of
know
course
they
the
weren't intended?
polls.
Sorry.
Is
keep going.
the polls, and he's polling. I think in the last 4 polls, he's polled around 10-11%,
Yeah,
which is
huge.
better than the Libertarians have ever done.
So
It's polling around 8% last time, and the end polls had him at exit polls had him somewhere around
Just under
4%, but the actual vote was 1%.
yeah. So here's the thing. None of that actually matters because of the way the U.S. electoral college system works. So there was a guy in 1992 who ran against
Ross
George
Perot.
Herbert Walker Bush. Yes, Ross Perot. He got 18% of the vote. 18% of the vote. Guess how many electoral college seats he won?
0.
You got none.
Yes, precisely.
The last
So-
third-party person to get any electoral votes was Jim Wallace in '68 when he won all the Deep South states.
Correct. So here's the thing. I don't care about the actual vote percentage. They need to get their butts down on states. So they need to win some actual states. We need to be able to say at least we've won well, I say we, but the Libertarian Party needs to be able to say that it's won New Mexico. New Mexico at least, because he's from that state. And they need to be able to say they've... New Hampshire, because that's the entire point of the Free State
Project.
Yeah.
No, I think it is too much to expect that they could win a state. I just if they can get 10% in a general, even if they don't win any state, I still think that makes a massive statement.
Yeah.
In
Well,
terms
that's what
of
everyone
not
was
just
saying
what.
about Donald Trump 12 months ago.
Yeah.
He'll never win a primary. He'll never win
Yeah,
a
Sure.
primary.
But that's a
it's
different. Yeah, but that's like a whole different thing. Like, the nature of major, two-party systems is, like, it doesn't matter who they nominate, they're still going to get a certain percentage of the vote, even if they put on a trained monkey. Like, even if they put on a better option than Donald Trump, it's still going to get.
The percentage of the
Can a
vote
trained
is,
monkey run for president?
Say again.
Can
No,
a
you
trained
can't.
monkey run?
Probably. And
doesn't meet the constitutional requirements.
No. Probably can
Unless
get
it's
elected to
35
parliament.
years old and born in the US.
But like I think going on from Tim's point is like this is essentially a PR exercise. Like it's not about winning electoral college votes. Like when you're seeing articles in Forbes and like all these major serious news outlets.
Yeah, and he
saying,
was on CNN this week.
Yep.
Because
and that's why I think, okay, sure, Gary Johnson and Bill Weld are not like the most libertarian people out there. There's things I disagree with about their stance. I mean, Bill Weld in particular, like he's got a pretty troubled record in
he
terms
supported
of,
the Iraq War.
yeah, and like gun control as well. Like he supported
Yes.
like the
And he
assault
endorsed John
weapon ban.
Kasich
Yeah,
before during the primaries.
Yeah, which is a bit nuts. But like it's like the main thing is you've got two people who are credible. Like in terms of politicians, like these are serious guys. These are not, Austin Peterson seems perfectly nice. John McAfee seems like a lunatic, but that's okay as well. But like they're not serious candidates.
But it's also
You
the
can't
year
look
of
at
the
them and say,
outsider as well. I mean, Trump and Sanders are doing well. Trump has got the nomination because he's an outsider, and Sanders has come quite close.
Come closer than anyone from outside the party like that has ever gotten. Like,
Yeah, but they also have a massive, massive political party behind them. So, You know, like there's, and I mean, Sanders has also been like the thing about Sanders is like they're both running for the nominations, or Trump's got the nomination for a massive political party. They don't need to have credibility as people for them to take notice because they've already got 30% of people voting for their party, no matter who they nominate. So, like that's just saying, they could have put up McAfee because Donald Trump. Well, it's not the same thing. People don't care about the Libertarian Party. They do care already about the Republicans. Sorry, Dom, go.
If Trump or Sanders ran as third parties, they would probably get some electoral college votes.
They would
definitely.
not. They would not.
They would.
They wouldn't.
They would.
Sorry, when was the last time
they
anybody got a third?
Sanders would get at least
was
get
1960 something when we just said that the last time somebody got electoral
Jim
college
Wallace.
votes? Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. The Libertarians got one
person,
one electoral college vote in the 1970s because somebody, Roger McBride.
He was 1972. Faceless
so Nixon, he was a Nixon guy. Like he was supposed to be vote for Nixon, and then he voted for the LP
in Maine.
Yeah, something like that. That's the only time anybody in a third party has ever got an electoral college vote. Like in living
Roosevelt.
history.
Roosevelt. Okay, living history. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not Donald Trump. If he ran as a third party, which he probably wouldn't have, but even if he did, he'd still be laughed at. Like just getting ballot access alone is a huge deal. Like that. It's. I mean, and when you've got you've got all these
when you're a
conservatives
billionaire, you can.
Yeah, but no, not even then. Like, it's still, you've got to go and get...
Ross Perot nearly did it, and Trump has been far more popular than Ross Perot.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't think...
Look, just take his primary vote alone, he's got something like 30%.
Yeah, which, I mean, it doesn't really matter now anyway, because he's not running as a third party. He's running as a Republican nominee. Yeah. So it's largely irrelevant. I think the value of Weld and Johnson is that they're serious people, they're serious candidates, and you can look at them and say, they're not crazy, they're not conniving, manipulative bitches like Clinton. Therefore, these are serious. You should take these guys seriously. And I think you never would have got that with anybody else.
But that's not the only thing, just that they sort of, look normal. They've also, as we were saying before, they've got to be able to spread the libertarian message as well for a lot of people who, because, he's starting to get mainstream coverage now, because I think the mainstream media, they've had their fun now with Trump. I mean, you saw that press conference last week where the press really went after him and he, viciously attacked all of them. So I think they're willing to give, especially the Libertarians, because, they've got their act together and already got a nominee. Yeah. So, that's one of the skills or important things that's going to need to happen. Selling libertarianism to CNN, Fox, or MSNBC, the main players.
And the other thing is you've got the Libertarian Party. It's the two major parties having these candidates that so many people hate.
Yeah.
Most disliked nominees in history.
Vote, and you're going to have, unfortunately, with first past the post voting, you're going to have people voting defensively against them. But I think you are going to see a huge third-party turnout for probably the Libertarians and the Greens.
Yeah, maybe. I guess we'll find out. I mean, I think for me, the other thing that sells Johnson and Weld is that it's an incremental thing. Like if you'd voted, if they made Darryl J. Perry, like some anarchist, their nominee, like people are not gonna, they don't want some crazy stuff. Like you just essentially want to get people who are not libertarians to be a little bit more libertarian. Like that's, if you want to have political change, it's going to be incremental. It's going to be about drawing in people who are kind of on the fence, and then you sort of get them on one issue, and you get them to sort of jump on the libertarian side on this issue, and then on another issue.
As long as you don't compromise the whole libertarian message, you sell the principles, non-aggression, private property, free markets, individual liberty.
Bordering on that.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't think. I think you, in a sense, do have to... in terms of political... Selling it as a set of policies, I don't think you... I think you can... there is a point where you have to compromise, because most people...
you have to compromise,
unless you're going for...
Ron Paul never compromised. Ron Paul always said what the libertarian position was.
Oh, I don't know. I think...
I know, he would vote... Well, he would vote no on a bill, but he'd amend the bill before voting no on it, so it gave more money to his constituents.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think anybody is pure as driven snow in these sort of circumstances. So, you know, like, and I think also, like, I mean, Ron Paul had a particular following. I mean, we're talking about this is an opportunity to project libertarian ideas well beyond just the kind of people who only listen to Ron Paul. Like, this is a much bigger opportunity.
If it wasn't for Ron Paul, we wouldn't be where we are now. I mean, we're only in this good position because of his groundwork in 08, 012.
Sure.
And don't forget, we had the big failure earlier in the year of Rand Paul because he compromised so much. It just hardly any of the movement got behind him.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely won't deny that Rand Paul was a failure, but yeah, I mean, I think, you know, in terms of the question that Austin Peterson got about, you know, selling drugs to kids, like, a lot of libertarians think that is selling out when he said no, like, which is just nonsense. Like, I mean, it's
Did he say no?
Yeah, he said no. There should be laws against that kind of thing, and people booed. Like, you know, I guess there's like, I'm pretty. I guess for me, I'm pretty tolerant of kind of to what extent people who are going to promote these principles at a wide level, like at a national level, not just as a fringe thing, but like as a real big type thing. You say, well, okay, so Gary Johnson doesn't have a problem with anti-discrimination laws, but, you know, on these other things, he's really good. Let's support him because.
But that's a pretty big one.
If these 4 things change, that's a big change, and we can come to the other stuff at a later point. Like, we can't, like, the possibility of getting one person who's good on everything that everybody loves on like, it's just, that's not how, like, most people, like, if you can get most people, just the mainstream, to accept getting, you know, legalizing weed, gay marriage, you know, 2 or 3 other things, like, that's a huge change in and of itself. That's like, you know, massive.
Yeah, libertarians, they're not aiming to win. They're not going to win. And so you've still got to have that in mind. Like, obviously you want to get a high vote, but you've still got to make sure that the message is not compromised. You're sort of talking like we should be aiming to win.
I'm saying
we should be aiming to persuade people.
We should win. We should definitely win.
I think this is an opportunity in this election to just really take a blow to the major parties, to get a third party in there like you had back before the 20th century. You know? Well,
yeah, I don't know.
You can do that. We've got ballot access in 50 states. The Greens have ballot access in 50 states.
I don't think the Greens do.
No, I don't think the Greens do.
No, they don't.
I think they've got ballot access possibly in California, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Jill Stein had like running in New Hampshire. Weird.
But like, I don't think we should actually be aiming to win. I think the idea is to promote ideas, but to the people who are non-libertarians, you only get them on board incrementally. Like, you know, people are not just going to hear, non-aggression principle, and all of a sudden they're becoming Rothbardians. Like, it's going to, like, I'm sure most of us, like the 4 of us, when we became libertarians, there was sort of a couple of issues that we really thought libertarianly on, and that kind of dragged us into...
Well, we all got there in the end. That's the key. We all got to the whole libertarian view, which is Johnson, he doesn't... Well, I know, obviously, like, he doesn't go all the way, but there's a lot of important issues that he's not good on, like the anti-discrimination laws, which is kind of a big one at the moment.
Yeah, so my thing is not that if Libertarian Party only ever nominate Gary Johnson and they fully embrace him in every single way, and there's no... Well, that would be a problem. But in terms of reaching people with the gateway drug to libertarianism at a political level, like not in terms of ideas, like handing out economics in
freedom as a political drug,
or handing out like people, like, in terms of the core ideas outside of politics. Well, it's still going to be the books that we reread and the things we talk about. Like, that's still important. But in terms of in an electoral cycle, in an electoral period, having somebody out there promoting libertarian leaning or libertarian policies, like, having them good on 3 or 4 things is fine, in my view, because those people, if you can get the mainstream to embrace those things, then the mainstream has become more libertarian, even if they themselves do not identify as libertarian. And for me, that's the only thing worth aspiring to, because the notion that we can have every single person become a libertarian, or even majority of people self-identify as libertarian, is probably just silly. Like, it's just utopian thinking.
Yeah, we can get
So
on to that.
I want to aim for creating more actual libertarians, not sort
I-
of on a few
I would-
issues.
I would actually
I don't
argue that.
care what they believe, as long as they're not infringing on us.
Yeah, I'm with Dom on that one. I would actually hate to live in a world full of libertarians. I'm sorry, it's just awful being around a whole bunch of libertarians for like
This
a
coming
weekend.
from the king of the trolls, Vickers himself.
It's yes. I mean, it's exhausting. It is so taxing being around libertarians all the time. I mean, I can tolerate this
No,
because
it
it's
can't be
only an
taxing
hour.
Vickers because we don't like taxes.
Ah, you're right. You're right. Yes, it's the libertarian hate of taxation
Yeah.
that forces them to tax each other.
Yeah, that's it.
It's also worth noting within this, while we're talking about living among libertarians, that the paleo libertarians like the Lou Rockwells, the Alex Jones, and Stefan Molyneux, they're all still firmly behind Trump and hate the Johnson World ticket. So there's a fair bit of
That's worth
it.
nominating Johnson alone.
No,
then.
so can we actually stop calling the people that argue the forcible removal of people within national borders as being even remotely libertarian? I'm sorry. When you're saying that the state should forcibly remove people, right, from their homes,
It's forcing people off private property or collectively owned private property.
there's no such thing as
So,
collectively owned private property.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, it's called every
Yes, there
corporation that owns
Right.
land
And,
anywhere.
Yeah.
By the way,
yeah.
Australia's a corporation, just so you know.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about Alex
Everybody
Jones.
corporates, every apartment building.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's-
Actually, I legitimately saw a thing on Facebook today saying how they think that Martin Bryant really didn't kill these people in Port Arthur, and it's actually just all an inside job by the state. I'm just like, these people. Anyway, okay, we're getting off topic. I am getting people off topic.
Yeah,
I think
we are.
we've probably covered
well,
that
I
one
think we've
exhaustively.
exhausted this topic anyway.
Yeah.
We should be talking about like censorship.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
let's talk about Facebook and censorship because I'm in the category that. Well, anyway, okay, let's set the scene. So basically, Facebook, much like Twitter, having ongoing issues a bit in terms of what sort of things they allow people to say on their platforms. And there's the culture wars, and there's all sorts of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Recently for Facebook, there's been an insider came out and said how essentially a left-wing clique within Facebook control everything and deliberately keep out, Breitbart and all these kind of conservative outlets, and make sure that kind of more left-wing cause celebras always come into the news feed. So, and then there's people getting busted, including our very own Dom Vasta being busted for saying being banned for saying things.
So I don't
Say
know
what-
anyone.
Let's talk about. So people use the phrase censorship. You guys can talk about it. I'm gonna sort of argue against the notion that it's censorship. But anyway,
No. So I actually agree with you. It's not censorship. It is though like a private media organization basically getting involved in political discourse. But that's a different issue. But I've had the same experience as Don. I actually got banned for posting Clementine Ford's article with the word "cunt" in it. I mean, I know
can't
exactly.
say that word. Always say you're brown. It's okay. You can say that.
Yeah, no, well, I can say because it's my podcast.
Yeah.
So my media. Anyway, yes, I got banned for that. So I know exactly Dom's pain when he got banned for. What did you say? Smoking a fag?
Yeah, I said, I asked someone, why do you hate fags in a discussion about the cigarette excise?
Flip a table.
Which is not a bad joke.
It's not about.
The problem I have with it, I think it's not just. I don't think it's censorship in that I'm stopped from saying something. I think that they're saying, "Oh, well, you look at their policy, their community guidelines, that sort of stuff. It says humor. We understand that there are exceptions for humor. We understand that hate speech has to be targeted at individuals or groups." Nothing of what I said fit within that definition.
Yeah.
Then
But why does Facebook even... Why does it even have community standards? I mean, I think Facebook and Twitter should just be a free-for-all, really.
Well,
it's a private
you
organization.
buy some shares and vote in their company policy.
Yeah, I know it's a private organization, but I think considering the fact that it's called a social media platform where we all interact and share things on, I think that should be relatively free. I know they have reserve the right. But surely, shouldn't a platform such as Facebook be for everyone's points of view?
Not necessarily.
Well,
So,
obviously-
There's lots of stuff I wouldn't. If I owned a social media platform, there's lots of stuff I wouldn't.
yeah, and
People do.
if you
There's legal consequences as well with some of these European countries in particular now actually, fining them for things like allowing hate speech to go on. Yet, if the governments in the European countries were fined for allowing, stuff to go on, that would have some interesting implications.
Yeah, so like take this podcast for example, right? This is technically, I mean, it's carried out through, a website that I
YouTube
own.
and iTunes.
Yeah, and YouTube and iTunes as well. So like on my personal website, I can just say, oh hey, I'll leave it up to whatever I feel like on the day. But with YouTube and iTunes, I got to abide by their policies. So I mean,
Well, how
it's
would you
not-
feel if they decided just to ban the podcast on those two platforms? Like, well,
I mean- I'd be pretty miffed.
yeah, exactly, because
it's
everyone uses them.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
We-
just
we think-
But
I just-
you don't have a right to a platform.
yeah,
No,
that's
you
what I was
don't.
going to say.
But the spirit of Facebook, YouTube, Twitter should be one of open discussion, open interaction.
That's for the
I-
shareholders to decide.
Yeah, I was going to say it's for the shareholders to decide. So even though, like, I personally, if I ran a platform, yes, I would be in your position where I would be like, yes, this is a carriage service, use at will. In fact, the only thing I would actually ban is actually child pornography. And
Yeah, I think
basic
everyone's
pedophilia.
for banning that.
Yeah,
Well, I don't
so-
know. I reckon you could probably find a lot of people on something like Reddit
Yeah, I
who
was
would
going
say,
to
yeah, probably
say,
not.
yeah.
A lot of people out
Yeah.
there who would
Someone
just have a
dot com.
literal free for all on anything.
Yeah, and actually no. So there, like I haven't fully thought about what I would ban, but like I do have a list of things that if I was running my own private carriage service, would not tolerate. And I think it's perfectly reasonable for Facebook to have similar set of policies. I mean, really, the complaint is there isn't a service like Facebook or Twitter that is more open. I guess you could say.
My problem is that they claim to be for free speech. They claim to have these exemptions
But
for
they're
humor,
not.
that sort of stuff, but it's not enforced, and there's no
Well,
appeal policy. It's a
yeah, so
bad policy.
The appeal
Yeah.
process is probably
Very
something better
unclear.
than but I mean,
No,
they probably
no,
just
no,
have
he's
there's
right.
probably
There
just
is
an
no-
algorithm.
No, there is no appeals process.
I know.
Absolutely.
I'm saying there should
100%.
be. Like, and I think someone like Lee Kavanagh, who's been repeatedly banned from Facebook for stuff that is has been in the ALS group, and yeah, like I just think it's horrendous. Like, so I think there should be an appeals process. But like in terms of like if someone like Zev, who's normally on our show, if he had a Facebook page. Which anybody can like, and somebody just kept spamming stuff about Jews against him, or if there was, like if somebody kept making comments about black people, like using the N-word on posts, like I would have a problem with that. Like if it was like, I don't
I'd
think
ban from
somebody
my
should
page,
be
but I wouldn't-
racially
Yeah,
vilified.
you can ban people from a page or a group, but banning them from the actual platform, I think, goes too far.
But if all they do is that, then I think that's fine.
Well, then everyone will just unfriend them and not follow them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't. Why make people go through that hassle when if somebody's clearly done like their sole purpose is to be horrible to other people, to be antisocial.
You can block them.
Yeah, but I don't.
Look,
think,
actually-
I think
I-
as a platform, I don't think it's unreasonable for them to say, "Well, we don't want to put up with this stuff. We don't.
Yeah, but
we
I
don't
think
want
that-
everybody
but I-
have to go through it and ban this person when this person is the problem and not like why should
Yeah.
somebody else have to go through the hassle?"
I was actually going to say, but the problem isn't that Facebook can offer that service to like ban people that are very antisocial from their platform.
Yeah.
The problem is they don't actually do that, and they've got a system in place that's very poor at contextually recognizing
Yeah.
what people are talking about, and it's very poor at dealing with the fact that when it gets it wrong really badly. And my first offense was a 7-day ban for posting a Clementine Ford article.
Yep.
Of all things, right? And like she has it on her own page.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there going like, I don't understand how she's not banned, but I get banned for posting the same article.
Yep.
Like none of that made sense to me.
And
the only,
Yeah, and with Lauren Southern's ban, that was
Oh, yeah. For criticizing
her-
banning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah,
No, but
so
that was her posting like other people's things about why they were banned,
Yes.
which is a violation of the rules, and I can understand that. I can understand.
no. Okay, so first of all, that is bullshit. I think if you're going to have a system where you're banning people, I
You're
think people
discussing
should
what
be
they're-
allowed to. I'm pretty sure people should be allowed to discuss it.
Yeah, I know, but it is at least stated in the rules that is not.
Oh
an
yeah,
okay
but
thing.
if the rules are bullshit, then I don't care
Oh.
what they say.
Well, that's
Well,
not how it works, though.
That's not
But
how.
that's not how any civil society works.
There you go.
But like, no,
I'm allowed to
I-
say that if the rules say that, the rules are crap.
Well,
the rules-
yeah, but
well,
the
we're
rules
not
are
arguing
crap,
that the
but
rules
they're still
aren't
the
crap.
rules.
Yeah.
we got to wrap this up because we're at an hour. Vickers, do you want to make a final comment and then we'll wrap things up? We'll have one final comment from everybody. Everybody gets one more. You get a free extra comment. You get an extra. We all get an extra comment. And then we're
Okay,
done.
sure. Look, my main problem with this is it's not a bad idea in principle that Facebook does some moderating. The issue appears to be that Facebook isn't moderating properly or in a manner that seems to be even remotely fair. And it does seem to be politically motivated. Now, that's a problem for Facebook shareholders and for Facebook management. I mean, they're not really hemorrhaging users, so I don't think it's a problem for them in the long run. And as bad as we would say it is from a libertarian perspective, it's a private platform, and until they start losing people, I don't think it's going to impact any business as usual activities for them.
Tim Wilms, final comment.
Well, Facebook, it's supposed to be an open platform where everyone interacts with each other. I think that it should basically be a free-for-all. If you don't like what somebody says, unfriend them, unfollow them, don't like their page. People should be able to express what they want because that is what a social media platform is.
Dom Vassar?
Yeah, my thing is the rules. It should be very clear as to what you are and what you aren't allowed to say. What happens there, it should be enforced very quickly, very swiftly. There should be a time limit on these sorts of things. No sort of getting banned for things that you said 5 years ago that someone's gone through your timeline and taken offense at. And the onus should be on the person who's offended to, take the action to block you, not for you to not say that thing, unless it is something that is egregiously offensive, egregiously, against the rules that are already there.
Fair enough. Yeah, I guess I'm a bit with you and Vickers. I think the notion of banning antisocial people is fine. Clearly, I agree. The policy needs to be implemented. I actually think the statute of limitations thing is actually a really good one because, people say immature stuff a few years ago they may not say now. It's good to keep it current. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for episode 14 of Taking Liberties in season 3. We'll be back again next week with more discussion on how to make liberty a reality.
See ya.
Bye.
Right?